Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. It's our first show of the new year, Tony. You fired up?
I'm Tony Cornheiser. We're on ESPN 2, so I'm only prepared to go through the motions. That's all.
Oh, come on. You're saying this is like a preseason exhibition, are you?
So, no, I'm not. No, I don't want to act bitter. We were going so long I had plastic surgery. Can you tell? Can you tell?
Yeah.
I had plastic surgery?
Absolutely.
Yeah, good. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, NFL playoff spots are at stake. Jimmy Butler wants out, and Booger McFarland joins us for 5 good minutes. But we begin today with the college football playoff. Last night, Notre Dame stifled Georgia to advance to the playoff Final Four, where they joined Penn State, Ohio State, and Texas. Wilbon, which of these 4 teams is the biggest surprise to you?
Well, Tony, I think Penn State, because they just never win big games. Never. Never meaning after the Joe Paterno era. So the last, whatever it is, 25 years, they don't win big games, but they won the 2 games they won, and everybody thought they had the easiest path. Now, I was at the Fiesta Bowl on New Year's Eve and watched them beat Boise State. And I thought Boise State was going to win that game. I went into that game thinking, I don't care about seedings. I don't care about reputation. I think that Boise State is going to win this game. And Boise State was behind early and tried to catch up and couldn't a couple of times. Looked like they were going to formulate a comeback. But I'm going to say Penn State is the surprise of the teams that are there, even though Penn State is a Power 4 school, a team that has won, a school that has won national championships in its history. I'm going to say I just didn't have that level of expectations, even as a Big Ten guy. You going to disagree with me on that?
No, I'm not. Well, I'm going to disagree with the final answer, but if you had asked me a month ago, I would have said Penn State, because I didn't think they were particularly good. They were a third-place team in their own conference. They always lose to teams that are ranked higher to them. They lost to Oregon. They lost to Ohio State, but I think they did get the easiest draw.
Yeah.
Okay, I think they got the easiest draw, okay? I think that Boise State is a champion of a low sort of, conference. Then they got SMU, which was an also-ran in a mediocre conference. I never would have said Ohio State because I like the pedigree. And I wouldn't count it against them that they lost to the number 1 team in the country at Oregon by 1 point. The Michigan loss was terrible, but that is a blood rivalry. So I sort of give both teams a pass on that. And I never would have said Texas because I think Texas is a good team with a real good quarterback. And I like Texas, and they lost to Georgia. So I'm not going to get angry at that. I'm landing on Notre Dame, Mike. I'm landing on Notre Dame because they had the worst loss of the year in the first game when they lost to Northern Illinois. And they won every game since then. But I wasn't sure they had beaten any good teams since then. I think they got a break playing Georgia when Georgia was with its second-string quarterback. I think Notre Dame's quarterback, who ran the ball great, he threw it 24 times. He only gained 90 yards. I mean, that's just terrible. So to me, and I love Notre Dame, but they are the most surprising team to me to be this far.
Let me say this, Tom, real quickly before we move to the next story. Notre Dame has benefited and done so well with the transfer portal, going in to get specific players at positions that have helped them. And Notre Dame is now a big, strong, tough team that doesn't get pushed around like the Notre Dame teams we've seen over the past 20 years. Notre Dame looks pretty darn good to me, just better than Georgia. They look better, and Georgia had a starting quarterback.
Yes.
So now we effectively have the 4-team playoff we've had for years, but it took us 2 weeks, of course, to pare this thing down from 12. The bottom 4 seeds are out, but so are the top 4. So how was the first season of this 12-team tournament played out to you?
Well, I think it needs fixing. We watched 8 games. 6 of the games were terrible. They were complete blowouts. The Texas-Arizona State game was thrilling, but Mike, you and I both watched that game. I thought it was because Texas, which had a really big lead, just sort of cratered in the second half. But when they needed to play, they had 3 passes in a row that resulted in points.
It was brilliant.
In the overtime. Last night's game was reasonably close, but Mike, every time Georgia needed something on 3rd or 4th down, they didn't get it. So my major takeaway is we don't need 12 teams. That's too many teams. Number 2, I didn't understand the home field in the first round. If you love home field for a round, put it in the second round so for your conference champions that you love so much, and maybe all 4 of them won't get knocked out in the same round. And my third position, Mike, would be to seed this thing, because I know it's romantic to say that Boise State has a wonderful team, but they were not the 3rd best team in this draw. And Arizona State was not the 4th best team in this draw. So that's my recommendation.
Tony, I agree with most everything you said there. I mean, from the top, for me, 12 is too many. And I'm going to disagree with people who are true experts, many of them colleagues and many of them friends on this network who've been talking all day. And they all bless 12. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to bless 12. It needs to be an 8-team tournament. Here's one of the reasons why it needs to be 8. First of all, college kids don't need to play 16 or 17 games in a season. That's heinous. Now, secondly, if you have 8, you don't have buys. You don't need buys. The teams that have buys got beat, and they were rusty. Oregon, come on, Oregon doesn't deserve that fate. You don't need buys. Get in with 8. You seed them 1 through 8, addressing another one of your issues I agree with you on.
Yeah.
And you put those 8 teams out there and you see, let's go. The teams that were rusty, Tony, they're at a disadvantage. They hadn't played in a month. Notre Dame had played last week. Ohio State had played like 10 days earlier, not been off for like 26 days. So, no, that's a disadvantage. If you have a bye, you don't want to have a disadvantage. They can fix the seeding. Just fix it. They're not going to go from 12 to 8 because this is a greed play. It's a money play for everybody involved, Mike, including this network.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I just think it needs adjusting. I think one of the things that we saw is it belies the fact that the SEC is by far the best conference. That's not true. Tennessee went out in their first game. Georgia went out in their first game. Texas is in, but they're not really an SEC team yet. They came in the transfer portal, just for this 1 year, Texas. So, I mean, and Alabama then lost to Michigan in a bowl game. So I don't want to hear any more about how they got hosed by the committee. Let's move on. Let's move to the NFL. There is one truly compelling game here in Week 18. 14-2 Minnesota plays at 14-2 Detroit. The winner gets the bye and the number 1 seed in the NFC. There are still some playoff berths up for grabs. Cincinnati's trying to get in the AFC playoffs, must beat Pittsburgh, but Denver and Miami still stand in their way. Tampa Bay must win to get into the NFC playoffs and keep Atlanta out. So, Wilbon, which is the most intriguing playoff race to you?
If this was a Vegas fight night, and you've been to a few of those back in your day, I've been to a million of them, these other games would be the prelim. You'd fight them at 6 o'clock before a half-full arena of people eating pizza. They're nothing. I don't want to hear any more, again, on this network and every other network, how no one wants to play Cincinnati. Yeah, you do, because they give up 100 points and they're not in the playoffs. If you didn't want to play them, they're not the 85 Bears or the 72 Dolphins. Please stop. There's one game that matters. There's one heavyweight matchup. It's Detroit, Minnesota. End of story. I cede the rest of the time to you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm interested in Cincinnati, because I think if they beat Pittsburgh, they would have had a really good second half of the season. But again, I mean, Denver is going to play Kansas City. Kansas City has already announced that Mahomes isn't going to play. Maybe Travis Kelce isn't going to play because Kansas City, in fact, in the playoffs does not want to play Joe Burrow. In the playoffs, nobody wants to play Joe Burrow, but I don't think they're going to get in. I don't really care about Tampa Bay and New Orleans, but I would like to see Baker Mayfield make the playoffs because I think he deserves it this year. In fact, I thought he should make the Pro Bowl. Actually, instead of Jaden Daniels, I thought he had a better year. But you're right. The big game is Detroit and Minnesota. It's the one that really matters. Mark Maskey had a story, our friend Mark Maskey in the Washington Post today, pointing out, Mike, that the team that loses is going to be 14-3. That's going to be no worse than the 3rd best record in the league. And they got to go on the road. They got to go on the road maybe to the Rams, maybe to Tampa Bay. They're not 14-3. That shouldn't happen. There should be integrity to go 14-3.
I want to reward division winners. Wild card, don't be a wild card team. You got to win your division. Well, that's fair.
Yeah, but you're stuck in the only division. You're stuck in the only division where there's another team at 14-2 at the moment. Yeah. Let's take a break.
It's hard.
Coming up, Should the Eagles let Saquon Barkley go for the single-season rushing record against the Giants? I'd have watched that.
John Madden didn't rest his starters. So is Andy Reid doing the wrong thing. Let me get a shout-out to my man Scatterboo, Arizona State Scatterboo.
Oh, he was great.
Without him, there wouldn't have been a great game at all in these playoffs so far in the CFP.
That's right. That's right. The playoffs, they're no good. Let's be fair here. Believe your eyes.
Come on.
College football analyst Booger McFarland wearing the logo from Sherwood Country Club in Los Angeles. Here we go. Let's start with this. We all watch this. We've been watching it for a couple of weeks now. What is your biggest takeaway from the first 12-team college football playoff?
Well, Tony, I'm going to give you a couple. Number one, I think we have to figure out a way to reseed this thing. The 4 teams that got a bye probably shouldn't have gotten a bye. There's no way that Oregon, who was by far the best team all season long, should have gotten the matchup that they got. That's number one. Number two, would you rather play or would you rather get the bye? Because all 4 teams that got the bye lost. And the games really turned out not to really be that close. I know the score may not be that indicative, but the teams that had the bye really came out rusty. They didn't come out sharp, ready to play. So I'm not so sure I wouldn't want to play my way in and through this tournament. So next year, I look for the seeding to change. And maybe they may do away with some of these buys. I know they want to emphasize the conference championship, but let's see what they wind up doing next year, because this year, I think having the bye was a disadvantage.
Booger, just to follow up on that, if you have 12 teams, somebody's got to have a bye. Is 12 too many? Tony and I talked about this all weekend. We love a playoff. We've loved it before a playoff existed. But 12 seems like too many.
Yeah, but you also got to realize, Mike, the reason we do have 12 is we're trying to be inclusive of everyone. You know, we're in a society now where you can't shun somebody off or shun a conference off. So I think we go to 14 or 16 rather than go back to 8. I would love to go to 8, but we're not going there. The toothpaste is out of the tube right now. It's just like me. Hey, I don't have any hair. There's no way I can go back to growing a head full of hair. Like, it's done. It's over with. I got to move forward.
Amen to that last observation. I think I'm with you on that one. Tony doesn't realize he's with us too. Nonetheless, we'll move to the NFL and Saquon Barkley. Booger, I'm totally conflicted about Nick Sirianni saying Barkley probably won't play Sunday against the Giants, even though he's well within reach of the all-time rushing record. I'm conflicted. How about you?
Yeah, Mike, I'm really not conflicted. As much as I would love for Saquon Barkley to get this record, as much as I would love for his offensive line to get this record, it's always going to be team over individual because we play a team sport. Because Saquon Barkley can't do it by himself, and everything that we're trying to do is about the team. It's about winning a championship. It's not about getting individual records. There are so many people that have individual records throughout this league. But you think about this. There's only been 57 champions so far, and we're about to crown number 58. And if you ask a lot of people, you look at the Philadelphia Eagles and you look at the fact that the Detroit Lions are really banged up and you really don't know maybe what you're going to get from the Minnesota Vikings, the Eagles might be the favorite in some people's eyes. And the last thing you would want is for your star running back, who has been phenomenal, to get hurt in a somewhat meaningless game.
Speaking of resting starters, Booger, the Chiefs are going to rest their starters apparently against the Broncos, who are still trying to play their way in the playoffs. In a similar scenario, a long time ago, John Madden, 1976, John Madden's top-seeded Raiders played starters and won. Madden said he did it for the sake of the organization and football. Where are you philosophically on this? Did you ever have a similar situation in your career?
Well, I think the way to handle this is maybe you can straddle the fence and do both. I know that's something we probably never should do when it comes to opinion television. But think about this. If they don't play their starters this week, that's off this week, that's off next week, and then you're not going to play till the Sunday of the end of the third week. So to me, that's a long time. I understand Patrick Mahomes not playing. He is all world. He is banged up. But if I'm an offensive lineman, if I'm a defensive lineman, let me go out and get 10 or 12 snaps. Let's treat this like a preseason game. I can go out, I can put my pads on, I can knock the rust off a little bit. Trust me as a professional to understand how to go out and play the game and play it at a high level for 10 or 15 snaps just to get a little game time and then take me out of the game. Because at some point, we only can suit up, Mike, 46 guys on Sunday. So somebody's got to go out and play. And so when you try to rest so many people, what you wind up doing is loading up some of your backups and your special teams guys. And that's something we don't talk about. We worry about the front end starters, but we don't talk about the guys that are on special teams and the guys that got to play those backup reps. Those guys have to play also because you can only dress 46 guys.
We will get you out of here on this, and I am looking for your perspective as a former player. The Lions have overcome so many injuries so far this year, but if they lose to the Vikings on Sunday, they have to go on the road as a wild card team. If that were to happen, given their season, what would the emotional impact and toll of that be for the Lions?
Doubt would start to creep in. And I think the one thing that we all know about the Detroit Lions, based on their head coach, is their bravado. They go for it on fourth down. They're always pushing the envelope. They don't care. They're going to do things their way. The head coach won us all over with his opening press conference about how they were going to play. They are a confident organization. But if you lose this game at home, you lose this game, and now most likely you're going to have to go on the road to a Tampa team that already came to Detroit and beat you in Detroit when you were more at full strength. Doubt has to creep in. And the one thing I don't think you want to take away from Detroit is their confidence, because they're not the most talented team in the league, but what they do is they play the best as a team. They play with that confidence. They play with that swagger. And if you lose and you go from number one and a bye and being at home and having to win 2 games to get to the Super Bowl, to losing, going on the road to Tampa. And I got news for y'all. I'm in Tampa right now. It ain't 30 degrees down here. It's about 70 degrees right now. And if you hadn't been in the heat in a while, like them boys in Detroit, it's going to be hot down in Tampa if they have to come down here and play. So no doubt their confidence would have to be shattered just a little bit, guys.
Booger, as always, thank you so much.
Thanks, Booger. Appreciate it.
Anytime, guys. Glad to be here.
Let's take one last break. Still to come, is Mike Vrabel the right fit to lead the Jets?
I know who's not the right fit to lead the Jets. And Jimmy Butler reportedly wants out of Miami. Says he wants out. Is Pat Riley going to change his mind and deal buckets?
78th birthday Calvin Hill. Hill, whose birthday was yesterday, was a great running back at Yale, who became a great running back for the Tom Landry Dallas Cowboys. Hill was Rookie of the Year in 1969, a Super Bowl champ, and a 4-time Pro Bowl selection. Now, though, Calvin Hill is best known for being the father of Grant Hill, the Hall of Fame basketball player and head of U.S. Olympic basketball. Calvin and Grant Hill may be the greatest combination of father and child in different sports. Also in that mix are boxer Ken Norton and football player Ken Jr., baseball player Pat Mahomes, football player Patrick Mahomes, tennis player Peter Korda, golfer Nelly, gold medal triple jumper Mike Conley and basketball's Mike Jr., and tennis player Yannick Noah and basketball's Joakim. Wilbon, who you got?
I'm going with Calvin and Grant, Tony. It's a great idea you came up with. I know you, like I, have known them all our lives, it seems, since Grant was a little kid. And my favorite person in that family, I'm not going to mention the Hills without mentioning my favorite person now, the late Janet Hill, wife and mother, and just a spectacular person. I love that family, and I'm going with Calvin and Grant. I have to. Happy
anniversary, Doug Flutie. Around this day 19 years ago, as backup quarterback for the Patriots, Flutie drop-kicked an extra point, something that hadn't been done in a regular season NFL game since 1941. It was Flutie's first extra point kick attempt in the NFL. He would go on to retire before the next season. The week before, in a game against the Jets, Flutie was on the field when the Jets sent in their backup quarterback, Vinny Testaverde. Flutie was 43, Testaverde was 42. That's the first time in NFL history 2 quarterbacks over the age of 40 competed against each other. Flutie played 21 professional seasons, 12 in the NFL, 8 in the CFL, 1 in the USFL.
Yeah, Flutie might have been short of stature, Tony, but he was such a great athlete. He is a legendary pickup basketball player. People talked all the time about how great Flutie was. He could walk into a gym and do anything. And the fact that he played in the NFL as long as he did, maybe he should have gotten a fuller chance to play more quarterback in the league.
Happy trails to Miami for Jimmy Butler. Butler has reportedly requested to be traded just days after Pat Riley said he wouldn't do so. Last night, after scoring just 9 points in a loss to the Pacers, Butler said, quote, "I want to see me getting my joy back playing basketball. Wherever that may be, we'll find out here pretty soon," unquote. When asked whether he could find that joy with the Heat, Butler said probably not. The relationship between Butler and Riley has reportedly been tense for months, since Butler said the Heat could have beaten the Celtics in last year's playoffs had he not missed the first-round series due to injury, and Riley responded to the media, quote, "If you're not on the court playing, you should keep your mouth shut."
Man, it sounds like Butler is willing to go anywhere, but for me, two teams jump out. Warriors, Suns. Either one of those gets Jimmy Butler, things could change a little bit right now.
One error, it was mine. Notre Dame's lost to Northern Illinois' second game of the season. Not
Second
first.
game.
Got to go
Yep.
really quick
Let's
to the
do
big
it.
finish now. CBS Sports reports the NCAA will consider giving all athletes 5 years of eligibility, eliminating the red shirt. Okay by you?
Yes, there shouldn't be any opposition to that. The Jets interviewed Mike Vrabel for their head coach opening. Is he a good fit?
He's a good coach. Pistons guard Jaden Ivey had surgery for a broken fibula. Could be out the rest of the season. Significant?
Yes, he was having a breakout season for the Pistons. I hope he can come all the way back. Alabama quarterback Jalen Milroe declared for the NFL draft. Is that a good move by him?
I don't know, but he was a Saban recruit. Maybe he won it out. Last one, the Knicks have won 9 in a row. The Thunder have won 13 in a row. They play tonight. Which streak ends?
I can't wait to see this game. The Thunder looks like the best team in the league. I'm not going to go against them playing at home. Not going to go against them.
We're out of time. We'll try to do better the next time. Happy belated birthday, Tracy. Missed you by a day.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Have a great weekend, knuckleheads.
Too complicated. And so it's official. Here's your schedule. Thursday night, Notre Dame, Penn State in the Orange Bowl, 7:30 Eastern, ESPN from Miami. And then a week from tonight, it's Ohio State and Texas in the Cotton Bowl in Arlington, 7:30 Eastern. Here are both coaches today, starting with Ryan Day on the Buckeyes' run in the postseason.
I think the way that this format is and the way the playoffs are set now, it allows us an opportunity to grow as a team and to learn and to get better and to peak late in the season. And so I think we've learned a lot about our team. I think we've grown a lot as a team. And, we're banking on this to be our best football of the season.
Now to be in the semis and playing the Cotton Bowl in Dallas is huge. We're going to need our fans. We're going to need our fan support. I need Longhorn Nation to show out in Arlington. We're going to need everything we got to try to win this game. Clearly we're massive underdogs and nobody's going to give us a shot. So we're going to need all that we can to try to win this game.
Oh, we're joined now by Rod Gilmore to break down what's going to be a fantastic semis. And you heard the guys there. Certainly, home field is going to be a bit more of an advantage for Texas as they're there 3 hours north of Austin. What do you think is going to be the deciding factor in the Cotton Bowl?
Well, I think there are a couple things to look at. And first, when you look at Texas, it really starts with their rushing attack. Mm-hmm. Where has it been? Yeah. They've not been able to run the football, only 53 yards rushing against Arizona State. The offensive line has been beaten up. They've had injuries, so they've struggled. And this is an offense that depends on the rushing attack to set up its passing attack. Mm-hmm. It's a play-action-based offense. Without that, that's a problem. The other thing that we're concerned about, how do you deal with Jeremiah?
Good luck.
He is a man among boys. It is not even silly. I mean, it's crazy what he's doing. So how will they defend with him? Okay, so do you tilt the field and double him and then leave the other weapons one-on-one? But you cannot do what Oregon did. Oregon came out and treated him like he's any other player, and they just stretched up one-on-one, and Chip Kelly moved them around and made them look silly.
And silly they looked. The Buckeyes, by the way, are a current 6-point favorite, according to ESPN Bet, to win the Cotton Bowl. And that's, of course, in large part because of their blowout win over Oregon that you mentioned in the Rose Bowl. But let's be real. Let's let them off the hook a little bit because the Ducks were not the only high seed, Rod, to lose in the quarterfinals. In fact, all 4 teams that got that first round bye failed to advance to the semis. Arizona State, Boise State, Georgia, all losing this week. What do you make of the new format, given how things have shaken out so far?
Well, I know that people are upset about the ranking and the seeding. And the thing is, it's not going to change anytime soon.
Sure.
And that's because it takes unanimous approval to change it. So there's no reason for the ACC and the Big 12 to agree to give up guaranteed buys without you offering them something. So it's not going to change. But here's the thing. We all saw a number 12 ranked Arizona State team get a number 4 seed and get a bye. And that's what has a lot of people worried about it. What I would do is I would change it so that your conference champs get a home game and they don't get an automatic bye. Mm-hmm. That way you still give some effect and some power to winning your conference without really kind of changing the system so that you give a bye, arguably, to a team that doesn't deserve one. That would be my change. But again, it takes unanimous approval, and right now, it's hard to see that happening in the short run.
Listen, hindsight is 20/20. Not mentioned by me just now when we talked about all 4 of those teams losing. Every single one of them was an underdog as well.
Yeah.
Right now, we are completely chalk when it comes to the results of these
It could
games.
be very simply, the better teams always win. It could be just that.
That's literally what we're seeing right now.
Yeah.
Now we've got the 4 left. And again, Notre Dame, Penn State kicking things off in the Orange Bowl. That's Thursday. ESPN, Rod Gilmore, we appreciate you as always.
Glad I came to check on you. You're good.
You know what? We're fine.
You're good.
It's good. Just thinking about 2022. Let's go to the NFL. Higher seeded teams dominated that first round, as I mentioned, as we shift gear to the Bengals and the Steelers. And it's going to be a good one, but potentially there could be some issues. Cincy needs a win